Welcome everyone to the 2020 San Francisco Public Works Black History Month celebration. Althea and I are the co-chairs of this year's committee. Will be in conversation with Commissioner Malia Cohen.
Commissioner Cohen became president of the San Francisco Police Commission in January of this year, having joined in August of last year. After being nominated by Mayor London Breed and unanimously approved by the Board of Supervisors. Cohen also served as president of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. She was first elected to the board in 2010 and re-elected in 2014. Commissioner Cohen also sits on the State Board of Equalization, a body that oversees tax administration in California. She was elected to the Board of Equalization in November of 2018. She served as chair in 2019 and is the first African American woman to serve on the board.
Good morning, Commissioner Cohen. Althea and I would like to welcome you to this year's San Francisco Public Works 2021 Black History Month celebration and for speaking with us today.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here. It's really good to see you all. You both look wonderful. I love this virtual platform that allows us to still gather safely.
Given that the theme of this year's Black History Month celebration is the Black family, please share with us one of your first memories of your having celebrated Black History Month with your family.
I love that question because I was hearing you read it and I'm reflecting and I really remember Black History celebration all the way back to kindergarten, as soon as I got into elementary school. And I remember my mother and a group of other mothers putting on the assembly program. I went to Lakeshore Elementary School. And I remember that's where I learned Lift Every Voice and Sing. Mm-hmm. I also remember memorizing Bible verses and Black History skits at church. So I guess to say the earliest would probably be about 5 years old. And quite frankly, ever since then, we've been celebrating every year. Certainly the month of February is the highlight of the celebration. But you and I know, and everyone knows that Black history is 365 days of the year. Exactly. And so for me, being Black history is an everyday event, but I do look forward to it on an annual basis. I joke with my friends and say that Black History Month is probably one of the most busiest months of the year for me. And then followed by Women's History Month, which is in March.
That's very beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Cohen. Yes, when you said lift every voice and sing, it reminds me in church of singing it. And to this day, I don't know all the words.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe that. As much as we sing it.
I do know.
Let me say this, lift up your voice and sing. As I have gotten older, the words and the lyrics mean so much more to me. Before it was just, it was a long song. It was very slow. Remember back in the day, we sung it very, very drawn out. Now we've got a few more jazzy, faster versions, but the lyrics just weigh so heavy. So rooted in our history of where we were and where we are presently. And then that last verse is looking forward. And so it's a little bit more upbeat and a little bit more inspirational. So I actually really enjoyed the song and I'm glad that we sing it. I would love to sing it every chance we get. I think this year, if I'm not mistaken, they sung it at the Super Bowl.
I believe you're correct.
Yeah. So we've come a long way.
We have.
Yes, we have. Maybe we can sing it at the end.
Yes, you can lead it.
What does racial equity, inclusion, and diversity mean to you? And how do you apply those definitions to the work that you do and for the nearly 10 million people whom you serve?
Well, that's an excellent question. For me, racial equity, inclusion, diversity, all of that is about a big tent. I envision a big tent and everyone is welcome under the table. I see it as no systems, allowing systems that have been in place for hundreds of years to continue to systematically exclude and oppress the African American community, any community, quite frankly, any community that's not a majority white community. That's how I see it. I see it as every voice at the table has a unique song to sing and brings a unique set of experiences that can help guide. Now, in my background, I focus a lot on taxes and fees and finance. And statistically speaking, when you have women and people of color at the table, we make better decisions and more sound investments. So from the way I interpret that to mean is that the broader the tent, the more people that you have at the table inputting, the better output, the better decision the group comes to. And so I believe that this is something that should be embraced, not something that people are fearful of and resist. This is something that will make San Francisco stronger, more efficient, California better, and ultimately the United States a more hospitable and inclusive place to be.
I agree. I agree. Commissioner Cohen, congratulations for being the first African American woman to be elected to and to chair the Board of Equalization. This is exciting for all of us, especially as you have a proven track record of creating visible change in the communities that you have served and continue to serve. Given that the Board of Equalization is the only statewide agency tasked with overseeing property tax administration, and given that the property tax itself is the second largest source of public revenue, what role do you believe that the Board of Equalization can or should play in helping California achieve a higher level of racial equity, social justice, and inclusion?
My role on the State Board of Equalization is very unique, and it's specifically tasked with creating an equal and level playing field for the assessment of property taxes. And this is particularly interesting to communities of color because it is property taxes that go into public education. So if you're a public school kid, like I am, and the property taxes that a neighborhood or a community pays goes directly into the local school system. So my role is unique because I'm here with the responsibility to ensure that it is fair across that no one is paying less than their fair share, and most importantly, no one is paying more than their fair share. And when I think about my role, I think about history. And in the 1950s, there were racist home exclusion practices that were sanctioned by the United States government. You might be familiar with the term redlining. Redlining means that if you lived in a certain neighborhood, you couldn't get a loan, or maybe the interest on your loan was very high. Your property taxes were very high, or perhaps they were very low, depending on where you are in the country. There is a correlation between why the schools in, say, Baby Hunters Point underperforms in the schools on the west side of the city. And it is directly related to the property value. Properties have a higher value on the west side of the city and are assessed at a higher value, and those tax dollars, in theory, are supposed to go equitably to the entire school district. Right. Well, we know that that's not the case. So for me, being at the table means that I'm working with county assessors. There are 58 in the state of California. I represent 22 counties, so I work with 22 of the largest and most influential assessors for the state of California, making sure that those rules are relevant, making sure that they're fair, making sure that everyone is understanding the rules and how their property are assessed. Now, how do I help people on a daily basis? Last year, when we first went down into the pandemic, you might remember it was right before property taxes were due. Yes. In April, and in February, then April, depending on if you're a small business as well. Mm-hmm. And so we worked with the county assessors to make sure that people would be able to pay their property tax bill without any fees. Another way that my world intersects with the general population is Prop 19 just passed. Prop 19 will change the way parents can transfer their property to their children, as well as grandparents transferring their property to their children. And the reason why this is critical is because a lot of our wealth in the community, doesn't matter if you're Black, Latino, Asian, immigrant, we believe in the old adage of the American dream of owning your own home. And for many people, owning their own home is their retirement package, is their 401k, meaning that they spend all their time and their energy and they spend their resources purchasing a home to keep the home so that they can retire. My parents put myself and my 4 sisters through college through the home that they purchased. So home ownership is absolutely critical. And a home is only as valuable as the property that is assessed. And we know that property is incredibly expensive here in San Francisco. So there is a direct correlation, given those 2 examples that I gave, about how property tax and how the assessment of property, how they work hand in hand.
We can see how important that this is to you on a personal level as well, because you have a legacy to transfer.
Yes, absolutely. The transfer of property is important because that is how wealth is transferred from one generation to another.
Yes.
Yes, I agree. It's the pathway, right, to generational wealth. So thank you for Prop 19 being passed. That's amazing.
Well, no, actually, we did not want it to be passed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, Althea, you're right. It's so complicated, and this is of lessons, the civic lessons that we have to pay attention to what is on the ballot. And so I was part of a very small group of folks that did not support Proposition 19, but the most people were very vocal in supporting it. So this is not a punitive commentary. This is really a commentary saying that we need to be mindful of how legislation is written and how it is presented to us, because we voted on something and it passed, and it's actually not in our best interest.
I see. Thank you for that clarification.
No problem, but I'm on it. I'm working to correct it, to rectify it.
Thank you, Commissioner Cohen. We appreciate that. Next question. As a member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, you advocated for a number of police reforms, and you are continuing to advocate for additional police reforms as the president of the San Francisco Police Commission. Notably, you lobbied the Police Commission extensively to end the police department's use of chokeholds, which the department abandoned in 2016. Mm-hmm. What is your vision of the future for police reform in San Francisco?
That's a really big and deep question. Thank you for asking it. You know, my love affair with policy, period, it's kind of weird and nerdy, but I believe that policies are created to have a positive impact on the greatest number of people's lives. Mm-hmm. And that policy should be dynamic, not haphazardly changed every time there's a new administration or a new regime that comes into power, but that allows, as society changes, as norms change, as people's ideas and their values start to ebb and flow, that the legislation could also catch up. And we had the carotid restraint, also known as the chokehold, on the books for longer than I can recall. But it was only until Mario Woods was killed that I began to become very introspective about what are our police orders, what are our police policies, what are they actually saying? Now, we call them Department General Orders, a DGO. The DGO related to the carotid restraint, we were successful in getting off the books, and it took a very heavy lift by folks that were on the commission before I got on the commission, Susie Loftus and Julius Turman, African-American gay man that was on that commission. And it was very difficult. There was strong resistance, largely coming from the POA. And of course, they argued that officers would be in danger or in jeopardy or are vulnerable if they did not have this additional tool. And this is a tool that we know can kill people. So we really began to review this. And this, again, these policies hadn't been touched in 20 years. So my thinking is that nothing should be around. Our technology changes like the drop of a hat, and we should be examining every policy, particularly those that are touching communities of color, like the police department. So what I think about when I think about future policing, I think about that there is civilian oversight. Meaning that when there is an officer behaving badly, that the civilian community has transparency, that things are not done behind closed door. I believe that when an officer is under investigation and or found to be guilty of some kind of wrongful or misconduct, I believe that they should be fired and that they should not be easily able to get another job in another jurisdiction. I believe that their record should follow them, just as if our human resource record would follow us or our work. If you were a lawyer or if you were a board certified doctor, these and you were sanctioned, that marker follows you. So should it be with the law enforcement. There are some serious protections that are in place that they call privacy laws that protect law enforcement, which gives bad officers credence to continue to be able to perform badly. And that's something that I really feel strongly that we need to begin to change. I would like to see us being more thoughtful about our funding in the police department. So what I mean by that is that I no longer want to see law enforcement officers engaging on folks that are having a mental break. I think we have got mental health professionals that should be picking up the slack and moving in that direction. So I support Mayor Breed's decision to move in that direction. She's done an excellent job, and I support where she's going. The future for me, as it relates to the San Francisco Police Department, I'm committed to making sure that that department has the technology that it needs. See, as I mentioned, I've got a master's in public policy and management from Carnegie Mellon, and it was a data-driven master's program, data-driven university with a strong computer science background. And I believe that in order to solve a problem, we need to be able to critically analyze and crunch the data. I also passed legislation that required the police department to collect data on who they're stopping, who they're searching. Why? Because I had a theory that Fourth Amendment rights were being violated, meaning that officers were pulling people over. And it's sad to say, based on the preliminary information from the data that is collected, you see African Americans and Latino men disproportionately pulled over at a higher rate. Now, how do we begin to change that? We need to look at our bias and our policing, our police training tactics. So for me, one of the priorities is not only collecting data, analyzing it, and getting a robust technology system to assist with us, but also partnering with the university, industry professionals to help us process and create policies that are unbiased. And I would like also to see a department that is aware of the cultural biases that exist, that are innate. You and I, we all have them. But we need to call attention to it. We need to be mindful of it when we're making a decision, when we're going into a neighborhood. Why do we feel fearful when we see a Black man? Paying attention to the stereotypes that we see in the images that we see on the television, in the media, that are substantiated constantly. So those are some of the things that I'd like to see in the San Francisco Police Department. Also, I want our department to be a leader. We have done great things here in San Francisco. We are leading when it comes to police reform, but we can do more, and I want to do more, and I want to do it faster.
Thank you, Commissioner Cohen. I appreciate what you just said, that you want to do more, you want to do it faster. And I believe the banning of the chokehold in 2016, that was an innovative move, because as we see, unfortunately, what happened last year with George Floyd, that some police departments still have that on the books. So thank you, Commissioner Cohen. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Cohen, for being a part of this year's San Francisco's Public Works Black History Month celebration and for speaking with us today.
You're welcome. I'm so delighted to be here. Thank you for having me. I particularly want to just acknowledge and uplift the public works department. Now, I may no longer be a city employee, I'm a state employee, but my heart is definitely in San Francisco. I am a true San Franciscan through and through. Grew up here, born, raised, took Muni all through these streets, and ultimately call this city my home. I'm raising my daughter here, my family is here. And so to be able to present myself and share my perspective on Black History Month, it's an honor. And I'm grateful for the invitation. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to share my beliefs.